And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another review of Snowfall, brought to you by myself, Lou, and Najir. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, brother? How you feeling tonight?
Hey, man, look, I am nice and drunk. Well, not drunk, but drinking. And the most important part, this wasn't another 2-hour long episode of Snowfall where, like, the time frame is killing you trying to remember everything.
Yeah, definitely straight shot with this one. Pun intended. 50 minutes, nonstop action. This is absolutely my favorite episode thus far. And like, I went back to kind of see how the episode was broken up last week. The first episode was about 50 minutes. The second episode was like 39. And the breaking point within it was like right before the gunfight, which I didn't feel that way when watching it. I felt like the gunfight was like the conclusion of it, but going back and seeing how it was, like, it didn't take away the feeling, but it was a long haul that first night checking that out. So
exactly. But at least with episode 3, we pick up somewhere we didn't expect to fully pick up. The way episode 2 ended, we expected it to pick up directly with that and the biggest threat for Franklin, but that's not the case here. But quick synopsis, titled episode. This one is called All the Way Down. Synopsis: Franklin's troubles extend beyond the gangs, putting Cissy in jeopardy. Teddy and Gustavo seek revenge. And that is where we need to start off with this episode, because we saw the end of episode 2.
Yeah.
And what happened to Wheelchair Jimmy and the family for Gustavo. And then we open the episode with Gustavo.
Yeah, Gustavo.
I'm drunk right now. I'm not going to say his name up properly at all.
Gustavo.
Gustavo. And as Teddy enters in, and then we get the big plan moving forward. Now, what did you think about the way that plan was set up for this episode? Because that's the first story we're going to focus on here. Is their story.
And quite frankly, I said it last episode in the review, and thank you for everybody that checked out our last week's review. We appreciate all the love. Without a doubt, I said this was going to be my favorite story arc going into this season, and this episode solidified that, because automatically, with Gustavo's complete demeanor changing 0 to 1,000, and the fact that he was already going to be unleashed, but now that he has the backing of the CIA, as he's a new official recruit of the CIA, he realized he can act without any type of repercussions now. Like, he already exposed who the CIA is. We, if anybody watching Narcos or anything, we all know how the CIA is.
Yes.
In story reasons, because I don't want this video to be taken down for mysterious reasons, tampering with the gun.
I mean, at this point, we might as well say anybody knows anything about the CIA in any form of entertainment.
Yes.
They are consistent. If there's ever a group of consistent police officials, it's the CIA. The FBI isn't consistent from show to show. Any local police isn't consistent from show to show.
Yeah.
The CIA is extremely consistent, which makes you believe maybe, just maybe, this must be true.
But in all seriousness, like, I again, going back to last week, when we looked at the Mexican police crew and we realized they were, tied with the mafia, and that was something that, again, I said I've never had seen that dynamic before.
Yeah.
But the response to this with Gustavo is absolutely been amazing thus far, and the complete massacre alongside with Teddy that they put in this episode.
Now, that's something I do. Before you fully get into it, I need to ask you that question, because this is important for the way normal TV shows build and the way Snowfall has decided to go all the way against trend. We normally see this kind of dragged out over the season. Like, you don't normally see them get to the massacre that happens in this episode, the episode right before what happened.
Yeah.
We normally get a huge setup, a huge play, a lot of officials get involved in it, and then they decide to do this. And that's normally takes 3 or 4 or 5 episodes to get to. Instead, Snowfall said, nope, we're going to get to the shits right away and give you exactly what you wanted to see. What were your thoughts on that turnaround?
absolutely elated by that. I mean, you do not get that regularly. And the fact that they did that, the fact that the storyline that I wanted to see emphasized, the fact that this episode was primarily around that, and the fact that it was nonstop action, I was absolutely head over heels. And again, I just think that, the whole like Gustavo being the luchador, being happy to being a black hoodie killer in this was just like the perfect transition that I wanted to see. And like he exposed the CIA. He's like, I don't give a hell about the DFS.
Hey,
I'm ready to go get my man by myself. He was just like, Fuentes, where is he? That's it. That's all I do.
As I said last episode, you were going to see that heel turn. All you needed was that. That's all you needed to understand just how serious he would be.
Hey, he had an NWO shirt under that hoodie. I saw it.
He clearly did. He clearly did. Like just the whole scene where it was Carlos and Gustavo's like visceral reaction to seeing him and just deciding I'm going to rip you apart here for what you did, because I not only need to do it because of what you are part of, I need to send a message to everyone else.
Yeah. So I will say the one thing that was so funny to me is that when he got down to TJ like that, like I'm talking about these trips to Mexico, quick as hell. But look, for this one, I was like, this makes sense because but I do love how they showed him to be so he was so motivated to for retaliation and revenge that he got caught slipping, because it's true. You come on now, if they were able to come across the border and do what they had to do, they were going to be expecting him to come. And the fact that Teddy intervened to wisen him up, I thought that like was the right thing for the story to do, so that we can really get some longevity with this, with some common sense attached to it.
It's realism.
Going around killing around everybody, a whole mafia by himself. Like, no, he needed this support, and that's why the complete massacre of the scene that we got was as good as it was, because it was believable, and it was. I think as fans, you're invested in seeing the people you like do it the way you would want them to do it. And it was just overall entertaining without it being dragged out. So like everything about it, I loved. I absolutely loved this episode.
It's the part of interjecting realism into a story.
Yeah.
Because you normally don't get that. Normally you do get the one-man army and he takes on an entire cartel and he kills
John Wick.
John Wick, man on fire, desperado. Like we've seen the man take on the cartel and win by himself. Yeah. But here you see the smart moves being made. Like Gustavo is full of emotion. He is only driven by his emotion. And you have Teddy like, no, we need to fully think this out. That's why I loved afterwards that conversation they had when he said, from now on, I'll follow everything you say as long as it ends up with him being dead.
Yeah,
it's him understanding like, okay, as bad as I want him dead, I'm putting way too much other stuff at risk, and that could end immediately.
Yeah.
And that's highly important for this story to show, because it actually shows the evolution of Gustavo as a character.
Yeah, and I also think, that's a good point. I also think, too, that as much as it's about, them getting Fuentes, and that seems to be, of interest of the CIA, Teddy also understands, like, he's an asset to us.
Yes.
Regardless, he knows what he's capable of. And that's why he was straight. He was, upfront, like, hey, I work for the CIA. Something they could have hid, because that's something that typically doesn't happen unless there seems to be something at stake for them or something that they can utilize. And I think they realized, like, we need his trust because we need him to wisen up, because we need him. And we've seen them go, like, they brought the war back to their turf and was successful. And I think that really, for us, the viewers, it really shows you how the plan had to be put together, and how it had to be put together and constructed with sense, so that it was able to be good storytelling, because it could have just been nonsense and unbelievable. But I do love the fact that they were able to. And yes, I know people are going to be like, oh, there's no way. Sure. there's sure there's outcomes that don't go this way, but the fact of how this went, it makes sense for storytelling reasons. But instead of what option A could have easily been, and it could have been Gustavo versus the world, and no one would have bought that, especially even emotion.
Even for people who say like this is not really realistic, I would argue with you. Pick the part of it that isn't.
Yeah.
Like, from the beginning of the mission, and what he did was a one-on-one battle.
Yeah.
Point blank and simple. Once that guy was killed, and they said, okay, how did they find him? We need to go and hide until we find out how they found him.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, that was the most important part of the episode with this storyline. Because the moment you say go into hiding, that means all of you are going to be centralized in one place.
Mm-hmm. True that.
And at that point, if you get someone who's supposed to be a CIA operative, as Teddy is, and I'm assuming at this point he's an amazing shot. Like at that point, he's just picking and shooting. Mm-hmm. This isn't the big portion of the game. This is about a good 10 people.
Yep.
If you play your cards right, it will come across as more realistic than if Gustavo would have went Rambo. He just went in there by himself, guns ablazing. Because as we saw, even when they had thought they executed the plan properly, without those vests being worn, which again was a brilliant thing to put in this story, because most people in this situation don't wear vests. For them wearing those vests, you see that they took on gunfire. It's just that they came prepared to do so. Now, leaving that storyline and going.
Just one thing I want to say too. If this is the first, phase of the war, I can't even wait what's going to happen next. I mean, the retaliation's coming, whether it's on American soil or Mexican soil. This bigger
going to be one of my later on questions. Because
I'm just saying, I'm waiting. I can't wait for the next chapter of the revenge of Gustavo. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, you can proceed.
Right. So now let's go to the minor story of this episode, which to me is Leon and Wanda. Am I saying Wanda?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right? Wanda?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Leon and WandaVision. So
that's and just that evolution of the character of Wanda that we see in this episode of her finally realizing what this drug is doing to her. What did you think about the interaction with Leon early? Not only that, but Leon's issue from the last episode coming to fruition with this episode with having a weak drug supply versus Wanda losing a tooth and coming to a realization like this is what this drug is doing to me.
Hey, yo, when she pulled that tooth out.
I ain't gonna lie, I thought it was a rock in there and they was gonna have her pull out a crack rock or something. I didn't know fully it was gonna be a tooth.
Yo, when she pulled that tooth out, man, I was like, oh boy. But and look, all I gotta say is I think that when you're looking at Leon's demeanor here, he's seeing somebody, that's clearly going down the wrong trend. And I think that kind of hit home. He's not hot-headed at all this episode. I think he realizes that, he's creating his own nightmare. And I think that this is probably going to be a storyline that does drag out, is the realization of what we said last week, that him and Franklin need each other.
Yep.
And he tried to get his own supply, didn't go well. And his weak supply has his pockets good, but it's affecting his block. And what prime example is WandaVision right in front of him. And she out here pulling out her teeth and all types of crazy things. But yeah, when she pulled out that teeth and all the blood, I was just done.
I was done.
She had a rough 4 seasons.
I was done right before then when they was talking about stealing the poodle for $500 so they can all have rock for a week. And that really brings into fruition just how bad, for people who don't remember crack in the 80s and the 90s, just how bad it is. That you saying $500 and you're like, that's enough for us to have crack for a week. A week. Like rocks only cost $5 back then. You know how many rocks you're buying? You say crack for a week? Like that was a hilarious moment before the serious realization to me for Wanda seeing herself for the first time. Because if you pay attention, this is the really first time she ever really looked at herself.
Good point.
And looked at what the drug was doing to her. So I think this could end up being a turning point for her. Along with when Leon sees her and he's like, well, what are you doing? Like, in the end, he still loves her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that hurts the most, is he loves her and he introduced her to the drug.
One time.
Yes. And because of that, I think he'll always feel guilt over her. Mm-hmm. And this was just another sign of him feeling guilty over her, but her finally getting a realization of what crack is doing to her.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep an eye out on these two as the season progresses, because right now this was not a lot of substance from them, but very significant moments for the two of them. So
now let's get to the big meat of the episode, pause, that I really like the most, which is the evolution of Franklin and Cissy. Here we see them attempting to expand their business ventures, along with Franklin finally doing something that I wished every drug dealer in every show would do to every crooked cop. It's finally put you in your place to make you realize the moment you sided with me is the moment all your power went away. What did you first think of Franklin's interaction with the detective?
I mean, the coffee shop scene, I thought that was, I think that was the solidification of Franklin's statue. In case you forgot, don't know how, that just lets you know who he is, why he's the big man on the block, and what he's capable of. So I will say this, from a filmmaking perspective, I thought it was amazing dialogue, and I thought the scene was well acted. But just as a fan, again, you rooting for Franklin, like, you definitely know he just bossed up right there, and that was definitely money. And so, as the episode progressed, we seen sort of a cause and effect to that, but it still had to be done. And even ultimately, after the little hiccup in the middle, which we'll talk about in a second, he still to show, I hate to say it, but he kind of showed resilience to that situation to continue being a boss when he had to go to the Mosleys and let them know that this property, you out of here by Friday, boy. Hey, he had 30 years in here, but that's it.
Now that's something to bring up, because that is, to me, a highly important part of this episode. First, they set up for you to cheer for Franklin. He finally stands up to the crooked cop. Then they end the episode with him screwing over a loving Black couple that built this business with their family for 30 years. And you see him be just as cold and heartless to them as he was to the cop. I think that parallel is highly important to show the conflict that is the character of Franklin. He is not someone necessarily to be liked, even though we want to like him. And I think this episode highlights that more than anything, along with his mom being arrested by the cop and just led to the grave of the cop that Franklin killed. It's another quick reminder of Franklin and the bad things he's had to do. Do you like the moral play that they're doing with Franklin in this episode?
I like it for the fans aspect. I love the fact that everybody is Team Franklin for the most part. But I love that. I think what really gets people invested in the fans is dividing the fans. I think that for every good popular show, if it's not two characters, team this or team that, it's the division of one character and understanding it and understanding, their moral complex. Is it righteous or is it not? And I think that's like what we're getting with Franklin. I know the folks in the comments gonna go crazy, but like, I think that for him to solidify his position as the kingpin, in other words, you have to do the unlikable things. You did them in the past. Cool. That's over with. Did your time. And you do things that we as fans can easily say, yeah, that was dope. I like that. But then, you also got to realize he has to keep that same energy no matter what, for the sake of the business and for the sake of family, because those are basically your 1-2 when building a good foundation. Family set, business good. And I thought he was very consistent in what he did this episode, despite if the fans agree with the different things. Because I mean, when he came out with the pimp juice, with the cane and the suit and everything, and I felt like just how that was shot really presented me. I was like, I mean, he always dresses, nice, but like I felt like some reason that one scene when he came into it that time, he just had a little bit more swagger to him, and I for sure thought he was going to look out, and he was like, nah. He gave him them papers. I said, those 30 years been cool and all, but you got till Friday. The Mosleys, throw them deuces up, man. Y'all out of here.
Now, how much weight do you put behind it that he was wavering what to do? And after Cissy's traumatic experience with a cop, she literally tells him, get this deal done.
Yeah. Gotta respect your mom. I think that's just always the safe play. I mean, I think that
hold up before you fully answer, because it's not a respect thing to me. What happened if we looked at it upon Cissy becoming more like Franklin? Because that's a ruthless move more than anything. Because she knew he had to lie to them to get them to sign over anything. And for her then to come back and say, no matter what, get this deal done. She knows what that means. And she knew he was wavering on if he should do it or he shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, how much does that speak about her as a character, especially moving forward this season?
I mean, you can say ruthless, or you can say it's the results of the intimidation. Now, when you go back to Nick's and the BS he pulled and gave her the long detour to jail, and we all know, well, if you don't know, well, I'll just say it for myself, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people will vouch beside me that as Black folks, we don't like cemeteries. Like being in back of that cop car with the white cop, that's
bad
probably
enough
here. But the cemetery is like way up here on our scared level.
Hey, we ain't like the cemetery since Uncle Charles went there. Like, it's been years since we like the cemetery. No, sir. No.
The fact that she had to eat a headstone, she had to face plant that. I mean, I think that's what intimidation does. Now, here's the thing. Nick thought the intimidation was going to flow back into his favor of, getting some more financial gain, but the money was set. Franklin said it is what it is. His job said, look, you on desk work, however that played out. Nonetheless,
well, from the business deal, when he said your cop problem, you need me to handle that. It's handled.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. So, that's done. But I think it's still Cissy. I think she's still, I'm not going to say traumatized by it, but I think it still played a part into her saying, like, we got to do business regardless of how it is. And, the interesting thing is the dad, who's just like,
that's something to say.
We've been on his side 2 episodes now.
No, I'm on his side here. I feel he's traumatized by what happened. And she looks at it like a price for business. And again, that's a very interesting angle that they're playing here. It's clear the dad knew it was Franklin's fault. He blames Franklin for it. He does not like it.
Yeah.
Cissy comes across as saying, when Franklin said, what did he say? And she said, nothing I didn't already know.
Yeah.
Then she doubled back and told him to get that deal done. She looked at it like, this is a cost of doing business.
Okay.
This is something that has to happen for us to progress forward. It's the father who's like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
And it could play back to his Black Panther roots. In the beginning, the whole point of the Black Panther Party was to build the Black community. So just imagine, I think this is something that's going to play out through the rest of the season. How hard is it for a Black Panther to have a child who he is seeing destroying a community that he fought to build?
I think I have to cue this up to be in the next. I won't say next. It will be third because there's still one more. But I think this is also another story arc that will be interesting. The revelations of the dad. Like, I think that he's been very pivotal in 3 episodes, but not overbearing.
Yes.
And I think that obviously means that there is something to there's something to come. You're not going to feature any character for 3 episodes and not have any significance. So I think that this is going to be important. I think we're building the psychology of this character, thus the payoff is to come. So I think that's a great point. And I think if the writing comes down to that, then that would be fantastic, because you're entirely right. The Black Panthers, wanted to put back power within the community. Yep. And the community, even if you're looking at how the title screen is looking, is being affected
completely by Franklin. Franklin is slowly but surely destroying the Black community with his drug.
Yeah.
And his father literally runs a shelter to help Black people. Mm-hmm. Like that contradiction between them two has to come to a head. And in this episode, I think you kind of see the way it's going to come to a head and the role that Cissy's going to play in it. Because for right now, it clearly seems like she is siding with her son. She understands the price of doing business here.
Yeah.
And I think she is becoming okay with it. But speaking on the price to do business is another minor storyline that I
hope it's what I think it
attention. And that is that very quick meetup between Man-Boy and Jerome.
Yep.
Because the most important thing was said in that meetup, and that was Man-Boy saying, basically, how about we do business without Franklin?
Yeah, look, it didn't take long for Man-Boy to re-expose himself of his envy of Franklin. And whatever he can do, he does a lot of that. Whatever he can do to be Franklin, to be on top.
Yep.
And regardless of circumstance, we're talking about the three of them work together, he ultimately wants to be the guy.
Yes.
That's why, like, when he was talking about how the gunfight went down, he was doing all that, saying he was doing all that. When we all know that two people at that meeting knew what really happened. And I think we have to talk about Jerome here completely lying. Which is making me question now. Jerome was the first one to say, once Peaches got shot, that he saw Scully shoot Man-Boy. He looked at it and he saw Man-Boy completely not shoot him. He saw it. It was without all that of all of the what happened, blah 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 blah. He came out and shot one of Scully's person, and he immediately looked over at Man-Boy and he saw that he was not the one to shoot him. With that being said, so if he's lying about what happened, and now he seems to be a little bit of giggly about the idea that we all work together like the old days, is it a flip coming here? Just something.
To me, that's what it looks like. It looks like Jerome may not be too happy with his place in the family organization, because all of a sudden it was him and Franklin. He has now taken a back seat to Cissy in this organization and to Auntie.
Yeah.
So even with Auntie putting him in his place, putting Man-Boy in his place, like, boy, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that it was counter to the way that Jerome was reacting to Man-Boy saying that. Yeah. And I think that's something else we're going to have to watch as the season goes on of what's Jerome's real feelings towards the place he is, not Franklin. I think he loves Franklin. That's beyond question. It's his place in that organization. And if he believes that while Franklin was gone, he ran things better.
Yeah, I hope he's just trying to pull a double agent move with Man-Boy, just trying to figure out what's really the intentions here, because there was a lot of the decision was Scully has to go. Let's go with Man-Boy. But that seems like to be an option A, option B thing. Option C is clearly like, well, we definitely don't trust that person, but we also don't trust this person. We need to get rid of this person, but we really, really need to watch this person. And maybe that's like the ulterior decision that's going on here that we can see. Either way, there's a lot of possibilities here, and we'll have to see. I think this is one of the ones that may be a little bit of a slow burn, a little bit in the background of some other things. But we will be bringing this up again.
I believe this could be the season-long storyline.
Could be.
This looks like the season-long storyline between this and the black actor. Again, this is the second black actor on Snowfall in 3 episodes that I don't personally know his name, but he's in everything and he's a legend. And he played a real estate broker in this episode. Do you know his name? I don't know his name.
Oh,
and I'm not going to act like I know his name.
I can never think of his name. All I know is that
he's in everything.
Yeah, everything iconic and possible. Yeah.
I'm look here. I had someone in the comments last week told us the name of Sully, and I have forgotten it that fast. Because he will always be Tracy to me. I don't care what he does, he'll be Tracy to me. And that's not a knock on him. That's me saying he's been great in everything. And this actor, the real estate broker, also has been great in everything. And I don't know his name.
Hey, look, all I know is that they all knew. They was just like, yeah, you're right.
Exactly. Hey, you can't even argue the point of that. When we see these actors, these type of actors in anything, we automatically know it's gonna be good. We like, it's gonna be good as hell. I don't care what it is. I don't care how grand of a B, C, or D movie it may look like. If we see these characters in it, we know this is gonna be good.
Stephen Williams. I looked it up really quick.
Jesus, that is a generic name I would have never came up with.
Yeah, I forgot. All Rise. Snowfall.
He's been in everything.
Key, Birds of Prey. Forgot about that. Blackish, of course.
I'm talking about back in the day. Like, I remember him from me growing up.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah,
that is
just taking no days off. He's
Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams, you are an amazing actor. I don't care. Like you up there with Tracy. I mean, we look up Steve Williams' name, but they look up Tracy's real name. It's Dewan something I can't remember. But between you, Tracy, Bohan Wobeen, all you people who black people don't really know your names, but we love you all. Like that's just to say thank you. Like that's great. But
you can't know everybody, but you know faces that's always going to be a part of your childhood, and that's all that matters.
Exactly. But to go back quickly to the thing with Man Boy and Jerome, at what point does that clearly come into a head with Franklin? Because eventually Man Boy has to let his intentions be known because he seems to be too hot-headed to hold.
Yeah, he talks. Look, he's a slick talker. It's gonna come out one meeting away, and it's all gonna come about. Once they realize, the false, the lie of saying he shot him and he really didn't. And remember, we didn't see Scully this episode, so there's another meeting to come about. So we'll see. I think this is one we just kind of leave on ice till it occurs. I will say this though before we wrap up. This is our 3rd episode now. We still haven't said anything about Irene as she's digging deeper and deeper into her story, which anybody who knows too much information typically isn't a good thing. So nothing to be said yet, but
she's like 2 episodes away from becoming a major player in this season.
Yeah, she's putting all the pieces together in the background, asking all the right questions. I think that depending on how you watch this show, I think that she could be asking a lot of the questions that you are asking. And she also is a good point of recapping. If you haven't watched any of the seasons, I think she might be a good person that you can kind of reference through to kind of putting some of the pieces together. So,
and I don't believe she's going to be a threat to Franklin.
No.
And right now, she thinks she's a threat to Franklin.
Yeah.
She's going to become a threat to Teddy.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the more she digs, especially with the agent who recanted their story, she's not crazy as a reporter. No. A local drug dealer doesn't have that power.
Yeah, she's she definitely sees the smoke in the horizon, and she's just trying to figure out where the fire is at. So
yes, and I think the fire is going to land right on Teddy's doorstep. But again, that's something down the line. We're at least 2 episodes away from her having her aha moment, where a lot of stuff gets revealed at once. Yeah. And it kind of like signals exactly where her investigation is going to go for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sir, what are your final thoughts on this episode?
Again, I thought it was an amazing episode. Going back to Gustavo and the all-out Narcos Snowfall edition war that happened. I need more of that. I thought it was just all shot really well. The action was good. The drama, just everything about this character completely turning heel and out for revenge. I mean, I loved it. I loved the rationality behind Teddy. And that's what I'm here to watch as this season progresses. I think, Franklin's obviously the main character, and there's a lot of intrigue behind it, but I'm rooting and seeing what's up with Gustavo for these rest episodes. The action was just that good. So we'll see. And ultimately, I think the biggest question is, well, shit, once he gets the revenge, then what happens? He just gets a CIA job and he goes off into the sun. And I guess he just does the luchador.
We know from the way Teddy works, that ain't an option.
I know. So yeah, otherwise it's a dope episode. I can't wait for me. Episode 4.
I absolutely love this episode. Again, Gustavo's storyline and the way with its conclusion was amazing. But for me, it's Franklin, who I felt, in all honesty, for the first 4 seasons, while a very interesting character, he was a weak character because of some of the decisions he made. In this episode, we see him become the ruthless person someone in his business has to be towards other people.
Yep.
And I think that is the thing I need to see play out more and more, because eventually, with that much money and that much power involved, he's going to have to insulate himself. And that is including from his family. Mm-hmm. And I want to see how that plays out. I want to see the dynamic between him, his father, and his mother, and how that play out. Because that, to me, is the most interesting element of this show.
Yeah.
Because we all cheer for Franklin week after week after week. And we disregard, as we do amazingly with any drug dealer in any movie or show, we all love Nino Brown, while not at the same time admitting all the horrible things that Nino Brown did. We love Scarface, and without admitting all the horrible things Scarface did in his community. Same thing with Franklin. So I just want to see how it's going to pay off this season, because to me, this is the pivotal season for Snowfall.
Yeah.
Because this is the season where it's make or break for Franklin. He is no longer on the come up. He is the come up. Mm-hmm. And with him being the come up, what normally happens is there's a fall coming. If anybody remember Jay-Z's song Fallen, he laid it out how drug dealers fall. It has naturally happened. Everybody has their Frank Lucas fur coat at the fight moment that leads to their downfall. And I want to see how it works out with Franklin. And to me, this episode, goes a long way of pointing to this being a pivotal season for Franklin.
This is true. All right. Well, yeah, I think that'll do it. I can't wait to check out episode 4, folks. As always, jump in the comments. Let us know what you thought about episode 3 all the way down. I only have to kind of narrate you all what to talk about. You always bring really good commentary. We'll be down there to obviously respond back to things, but check out episode 4. Our review will be there for you next
episode
week.
3.
No, this is
damn
3. It. I mean, you after
our review. After our discussion review, then check out episode 4.
Yes.
And then watch our episode review of
that. So check out our review, episode 4. We'll be back next week reviewing that episode. And as always, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you all there.